All right, are you ready?
I guess so. I'm ready.
Okay, you don't sound very sure.
No, I'm ready.
You
Yeah,
you're
I was
ready.
I'm having a bad hair day, so I don't know how ready I am with my bad hair,
You're
but that's okay.
good. You're good. I really like
All
your
right.
long hair like that. I have
It's
been
it's it's getting longer and longer. Yeah,
I
it's crazy.
love it. It's awesome because
Oh.
I still am watching Interview with Ed like a lot.
Oh,
And
okay.
because one of my
See,
best friends, she now, because you've been on, she's like loves it. And she keeps going, "Did you listen to this one?" I'm like, "I don't think I watched that one yet." And then I'll be like, "Did you listen to that?" So we're just back and forth. This is like our
awesome.
communication channel right now where it's
Right,
like,
right, right.
everything we talk about has an interview with Ed element at some
Oh,
point in the
cool.
day.
And you get to see all my variations of different hair days, right? So,
Exactly. Yes, because we're skipping around as well. So we're not
right.
doing it linearly.
Oh, my hair is not linear at all, and I've got very non-linear hair in the whole thing.
We're just jumping timelines all
Yeah,
over the place.
totally.
Hmm. Okay, here we go. Hello and welcome to the meditation conversation. I'm your host, Kara Goodwin, and today I'm so excited to have Reuben Langdon back. Yay! Hi,
Yay.
Reuben.
Hey, glad to be back. Thanks for having me, Kara.
I'm so excited. Reuben was here for episode 149, and we had an amazing discussion, and we ran out of time a little bit, so he's graciously agreed to come back and continue our exploration. Reuben is the creator of the Interview with Ed series on Gaia and Vimeo, and he's also an actor who's appeared in numerous blockbuster films and video games. So welcome back, Reuben.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so awesome. So like I was just saying before we started recording, I'm having so much fun continuing to watch Interview with Ed. And what is so fun is just seeing your own multidimensional journey unfolding.
Mm.
And I watched one recently where you talked about receiving a massive download during an eclipse. And as I'm watching it,
Mm.
I'm thinking, wait, stop, stop, stop. I want to hear everything about that. and, and you just gave like the tiniest little flavor because, you're interviewing other people and
Right,
it's
right, right.
human. But now you're here and I can say, tell me everything. What do you
Oh,
want to
wow.
share?
I don't even remember which eclipse, which episode was that?
This was
Do
the
you?
mantis with Jacqueline Smith.
Oh, that was a big one. Yeah, that was
Yes.
yeah, that was a big download. Uh, I've told this story a few times, but I've other than the craft in 2007 that I saw, physically flying around in Burbank, California. Um, I haven't had any conscious interactions with beings. I know I've had interactions with beings because during my meditations and medicine journeys, I've gotten to open some doors and gotten up to a point where I know there's something happening, and then I sort of black out.
Mm.
Um, so my whatever there's some blockages, or my consciousness is sort of saying, nope, you're not ready for that yet, or my higher self or whatever it is, and I trust that. Being in the space and learning all the wisdom nuggets, I've kind of come to the conclusion that, okay, that's probably what's going on, so no need to do that. However, I did have this one remarkable interaction with a mantis being, of all beings, right? That you could interact with. It wasn't one; it was a couple. It was actually, so it was like a week before the eclipse, or maybe 2 weeks. I was up in the mountains doing my meditation, and in meditation, the vision, I got the vision of a mantis being, and it was very, it was like his face, and it was actually the back of him.
Mhm.
I say him, I don't know if it was him or her, but I felt like a masculine energy, I guess. And he turned around and looked at me, and I looked at him, and I was just mesmerized by the um, particularly the eyes because the amount of detail, in sort of geometrical, almost like a beehive type. I don't know if it was that specific shape, but I just each eye had so much intricate detail in it, and I was just like getting sucked in at looking at the detail. I was like, oh, how cool is this? This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of faded away. There was no messages. There was no any kind of I was just like, is it? And then I was questioning myself: did I make that up in my imagination? Was that an actual visitation, or was it just me, tuning into whatever? Didn't know what it was. And then about 2 weeks later was this eclipse, and went up to the mountain, and I had a couple friends with me, and we were doing a hike, and we went to meditate on the mountains. And it was very powerful sight visually. And at the same time, though, one of our friends was processing a lot. She was an elder lady, and it was a lot of energy for her to process. So we were kind of helping her back to the car, and checking in with her. And I could feel, just energetically, I felt like I was tuning into what she was processing, just a lot of heavy old traumas that were coming to the surface, and she didn't really want to go into it, but got to the car, and then I remember my teeth started clicking. Like, I was like, okay, what's going on here? And I started feeling like weird energies going through my body. I'm like, okay, something's weird going on. I think we better get home. And then I'm driving, and I'm like, okay, something's a little off. And then it was only like a 15-minute drive. And then I got home, and I told everybody, I was like, look, the lady that was with us, she was actually not feeling well either. So she rested, went to bed. And then I went to bed in my other room, and just laid there, and then got zapped. It felt like a couple hours, but I think in reality it was only like 30 minutes. And I got an energetic zap of my whole body was just vibrating. I was kind of like flopping around like a fish.
Really?
And then at the same time, the mantis was there, and the mantis was giving me all this information about our galactic history, about the human experiment. And it was a lot of stuff that I had sort of heard through interviews and different things, but there was a lot of new stuff, and there was a lot of dots being connected that I had not connected like on my own. So I took it as, okay, is this a visitation from it? And I kept like opening my eyes, looking around the room, and I didn't see anybody or anything, but I'd close my eyes and go back into this energy, and just feeling the energy go through me. And that mantis interview with the hybrids, that was sort of a test. I did not tell them my full experience until you actually see in real time in the interview. I start sharing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see if my experience, I was looking in a sense for some validation for my experience, but strategically without divulging too much. So then they could kind of like, yeah, this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was trying to see if was my experience real, and are they real? Are they really connecting to the same energy that I had this experience to? And now that I've had this experience, I can kind of use it as a BS meter in a sense.
Yeah.
And it just, everything sunk up like this, which just blew my mind even more. In real time, my mind is like, whoa, that's exactly what I was experiencing.
Oh,
And I just met them. I literally met them, like Barbara Lamb introduced me. I saw them on the stage at we were at the UFO Congress, and Barbara had just released her book, Meet the Hybrids, and they were two. It was Rob and Jacqueline that were in the book. So, and at the time, I didn't even know there was the whole mantis thing was not a common experience for people to have that interaction. And the only other time I had known about the mantis experience was from interviews that Linda Moulton Howe had done in her past interviews. She had talked to different people, and she in fact talked to in one of her, I was reading up on the mantis and the experiences, and a friend of mine who works over at Gaia, turns out he didn't at the time, he didn't use his name, and he did this whole thing, and then I was telling him about my experience. He says, "Yeah, that was me. I was actually the one that
No
Linda
kidding.
had interviewed." And
Oh my gosh.
and then there's a whole this Stuart, what's his last name? Stuart has this podcast, Aliens Among Us or something like that. I have to look it up, but he's a mantis brother. There's a we have this community of mantis brothers that were, and I'm sure there's sisters out there too. But
Yeah.
it's funny that we've all kind of had these experiences with these beings, and we kind of like, it's our little secret club.
Yeah, it's interesting because I also did not know very much about the mantis beings. And I had kind of what I did know, I thought they were more negative beings because they can show up with like Zeta Reticuli encounters, which tend to be more on the negative side and frightening
Right.
for people. Other people might have, experiences with like what they understand to be Pleiadian beings,
Right.
and it's like beautiful and it's clearly in a loving, but typically like the Zeta encounters don't tend to be that way. And I'd had the few times that I had heard of mantis encounters, it had been kind of in that setting. So I thought they were more of a negative, you know,
Orientation.
baddies.
Yeah. Well, and since then I've done some more research. I have had a few more encounters with medicine journeys with them, and what I found is they are about as neutral as you can get.
That's what I
So
understand now. Yeah.
they're very, very neutral, and they don't have a preference of good or bad.
Yeah.
And I call them the facilitators of desire. And that was sort of came through some downloads, and I got to interview Elizabeth April, who has a connection with a mantis being. I think its name is, what was his name? Han? I don't remember. I think, no, it was Han, the Zeta Reticuli. I forget the name of the being, but
Han Solo.
and she, yeah, right. So, but she sort of verified, in going through that interview, verified a lot of the questions or the assumptions or the downloads that I had through of who the mantis beings are and their roles and how that all works. So it's a good interview. Once you get to that one, we go deeper, and I'm able to go deeper because I've had these experiences, or this experience, the main one, and then I've had subsequent experiences on a lesser level with them during medicine journeys, but nonetheless, yeah, it's really the only race that I have conscious experience of interactions with in sort of that meditation, which you'd think with all the ETs I'm interviewing and all the Arcturians and the Palladians and all this, different things, you'd think I'd probably have something of more of like a normal kind of situation. Which none of this is normal, by the way, but it is becoming more, in my world, it's very normal.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Right. And you're helping to normalize it, I mean, good. Really. Yeah. So do you, in your experience then, because you mentioned about the teeth clicking, and right, I know one time I was falling asleep, this was a few months ago, and I heard this clicking, like,
oh yeah. Like, that's the mantis.
And I was like, and I opened my eyes because I had only just I wasn't by any means asleep yet. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? And then I was like, there's nothing here. And then of course I'm like, well, I guess I just thought that, but I was like, but why in the world would I think this clicking? And then I later, I think, or maybe it was just before then, sometime around then, I sort of came across like the clicking and the mantis. But again, I didn't have like, I didn't understand them as these neutral beings or higher dimensional beings. And it was kind of like, hey, what is up with that? You know, I don't want the lower dimensional, you know, I'm thinking in my mind, you know, that's what that was. So I was very intrigued. That was all the further that went. I didn't see anything and nothing further, you know, happened, but it was just very interesting. And then you talking about the clicking, I was like, yeah,
the
I don't
clicking
know.
is what my understanding is when so there's different density levels, you know, of all beings and humans and stuff, and then the lower density ones are the actual physical mantis creatures that we see
mantis,
in our the praying mantis, right? So they are just imagine on a higher density level, higher states of planes of existence, that they evolve, right? And so the ones that evolve and even say in our density or even a little bit higher, say fourth density, fifth density, and the ones that still use language as opposed to just complete telepathic communication, then their language is this sort of clicking style of communication. So there is an energetic signature to the clicking to them. Doesn't mean that at these higher states of consciousness they're still clicking and talking in that way. So they're, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, why would they need to click if they're, you know, able to walk through walls and break into our matrix and you know, some of them still use ships and travel in ships on the lower density ones, but most of the ones that I've interacted with are just literally on the other side of the veil of the matrix that we're in, and they can pop in and out. They don't need ships. Their bodies themselves are so evolved. They're light bodies in a sense. They're more light than they are actual physical beings. And they just manifest themselves into a recognizable form in our reality because we have this physical density. So that's how they end up showing up, right, in our reality. They don't even in their reality, it's like a completely different perception or view, or, you know, but it's all energy, it's all light, and it reflects and reflects in geometries in our reality. This is how it shows up, right? You know, I think there's nothing to be afraid of. They're malevolent.
Malevolent?
I'm sorry, but benevolent. They're benevolent, but they still help the so-called malevolent beings because they have a bigger picture of what is, and they know, you know, like I said, the facilitators of desire. So especially during the hybridization programs, the download that I got was that the Zetas didn't have the technology. Now there's different stories and things going on, and different people say different things. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But my understanding from the download that I got was that the Zetas didn't have the technology to travel into our reality, or they needed help. Maybe they had it, it wasn't stable, I don't know, but they needed help. And they also needed help with the genetic programs that they were trying to create their hybrids. So the mantis helped in that sense, because it's the way I understand their role is, let's say on one side of the world, you have somebody with a desire, with an idea. Like, I have an idea, I want to do this thing. I want to make this invention to help the world do this thing, right? And the other side of the world, there's somebody that can actually help that. But how do they make that connection, right? So when that person has that idea, and the light bulb goes ding, right? And it's focusing, the mantis are back here, and they're like, oh, there's the light bulb. Okay. And there's the other light bulb of the guy that can actually help it. Now their job is to bring those two lights together. And so they're going to orchestrate and manipulate, you know, schedules and events and different people and other things, the train will stop right here at this time, so then this person has to go around that way, so it'll actually take 3 more seconds to go to this to get on this path, in order for this person on the other side of the world for them to actually meet and then connect, so then they can then execute these ideas and make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. So when the Zetas are like, hey, we want to make our hybridization programs for this thing, and then the humans are like, we don't want anything to do with that, but we also want to evolve our society into a spacefaring race, and we want to get rid of all these old energies. They're like, okay, well, if we match these two together, the humans will learn some valuable lessons. It may be a little rough, but they'll get what they want ultimately. And the Zetas will ultimately be able to preserve their race, and so they can continue to evolve and continue to be Zetas to a certain extent, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they're not necessarily malevolent in the sense that we would think they are. It depends on your point of view. Some people are like, that's an evil thing to do. Why would they help anybody, do genetic manipulation?
Right.
It's all perspective.
Right. And there's that higher soul perspective, because from a human being perspective, you may have one experience or thought about it, but from that higher perspective, you may have a different perspective.
Absolutely. It depends on your experience, depends on your background, depends on a lot of things. So, and all perspectives are valid. So it's just about how do we juggle the perspectives and find that point where we can all agree that, okay, this is okay. But this is not, and then collectively we move in, and this is what we're doing right now in our human experience. Like, we're trying to figure this out, right? Look at the whole world with COVID, and with the jab, and with the truckers, and the whole system is reconfiguring itself to say what is okay, what is not okay, how far can we push this direction, how far, genetic manipulation. These are old karmic lessons and things that we have to figure out, that we've been repeating, for thousands of years through these cycles on this plane. And this is the plane for us to do that, right? To do it in a safe way, safe enough, right? A safer way, because when you get to these higher dimensions and higher frequencies or higher densities, you don't have the luxury to figure it out in this sense, right? Things are happening, and manifestation is happening so fast that it's very easy to make a mistake and to destroy your world, or to destroy an entire civilization in the blink of an eye. Because what my understanding is, what we're doing here is this is the testing ground. We have time, the illusion of time, to in this heavier density that really stretches things out, so we can course correct at different areas, where if we're in these higher densities and we're making the same stupid decisions, there's no way to course correct. Like, it'd be over in a second.
I've heard that particularly about the 6th density, that it's just like so quick, and like creations just come and go so fast because of that,
Let me share another download I got.
Oh yeah, please.
This was I was on an island in off the coast of Georgia, Cumberland Island. It's this amazing, beautiful oasis, and I may or may have not taken some medicinal mushrooms, but we'll leave that up to.
Just imagine
that could have happened. And so I'm on this beach by myself. There's wild horses right around. It's just this,
gosh,
crazy, amazing place. Yeah. And I sitting in meditation, and I literally fall over forward, and my head goes into the sand, and I'm gone. And then I shoot out of my body. I go up into the air, and I'm seeing myself on the beach, And then I see, it looks like, do you know what a like editing software, timeline looks like?
I'm not familiar.
Okay, actually, I'll see if I can turn this around here. So this is my editing. So I'm editing. So
Okay.
you
Yeah.
see all the different tracks,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you see how it plays in the video. So
Yeah.
I literally saw a timeline like this, and um, and there was sections on the left that were very slow, and the picture was moving inside the picture, right? So in some of these
Oh,
editing
okay.
softwares, so there's a picture moving inside the picture, and it was like normal speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how we perceive things. But as you go further in the timeline over here, the picture was super super fast, and
Mm.
like moving like, flashes of images and blah, 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 and then you would continue on the timeline, and then it was just like unimaginable. And my interpretation at the time was that at these higher densities, that we're at this low, super slow density of how time is on the timeline. This is, I think
Mm-hmm.
this image was given to me because of all my editing and
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
to playing with timelines on the
Literally. Yeah. Uh-huh.
literally. So and then I realized, like, oh my God, we are so slow, like
Yeah.
compared to the rest of reality, right? Of our, not our reality, but what's out there in these
Uh-huh.
higher densities. It is happening at unbelievable speeds. Creation, manifestation, the stories being played out are just like, it's we're in a very molasses like reality,
Mm-hmm.
compared to what's out there. So we still have a long ways to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was shown to me. And then eventually I was like trying to go on the timeline. I was looking and trying to go into these higher densities, but it was so fast. And then it's the moment I thought about my body, I'm like, wait, where am I? Oh, my body's on the beach in the middle, and then boom, and then I shot back into my beach, woke, eyes opened, and in the
Oh,
sand, and I'm like,
wow.
what? Oh my God, what am I
Well,
doing here?
this I often think about this with hummingbirds. I'm like, they must
Hmm.
just see us and they're like, why are they so slow?
Right.
You know, because
Totally.
it's like I see a hummingbird, I'm like, what is it doing? How can it do it that fast? Like, how is it
Yeah.
just, it was just there and I didn't even see it. Like, I don't know how it got over there because it's so fast.
Yeah.
But it's like, how is it doing that here? You know?
Well, imagine these higher density beings. I mean, they're on the other side of the veil,
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of, they pop in, and they see, uh, for us, which may be a year, 2 years. For them, it could be a matter of seconds,
Mm-hmm.
and they pop into our reality, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys, yeah, you're doing your thing. Okay, we'll check back in with you." And and
Yeah.
2 seconds later, they're checking back in on their timeline, and then
Uh-huh.
for us, we're 5 years of past, and we're still
Yeah.
trying to figure out the same issues that.
Right.
So
Yeah. Or we've hopped timelines or something. I mean, I feel like that's happened in the last couple of weeks where it feels like there's been some kind of shift or
I felt
something.
that too. Yeah, I really feel the I mentioned the trucker thing. I felt,
Mm-hmm.
when that started, I felt a big shift in the collective energy around what's going on with all that. So
Yeah, and this is the truckers in Ottawa. We haven't really
mhm,
explored this here, and there are a lot of people I know who have no idea this is going on. But this
right,
is
right.
Ottawa, huge, huge thing going on up there.
Well, our unfortunately, our news agencies and groups aren't really, the mainstream ones aren't really doing a
Right.
very good job of reporting it, other than falsely reporting it and saying that they're extreme, anarchist, and they're
And conspiracy
violent
theorists
and all
and
this
yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
when the fact of the matter is, if you do any real research into it, it's so peaceful, and the heart energy that's coming from it. It reminds me of Standing Rock. I went to Standing Rock
Mm.
for the water protectors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there the weekend that they actually shut down the pipeline.
Pipeline.
And the energy around it, that was just right away, I just connected the same.
The
But this is
two.
actually much bigger than Standing Rock, right? You have massive amounts of people, the truckers
And the
and other,
farmers
and the
now.
farmers and the
Mm-hmm.
people, a lot of indigenous too on horseback, or
Mm.
are traveling there. Americans going up to travel, and the energy of it is, it's about peaceful protesting. There, nobody, that they have a few people that they've designated to be spokespeople, but they reiterate over and over again, no matter what, we must not engage in violence. So it's just about people standing, in their Standing Rock, right? Standing in your beliefs, and doing it peacefully, and with a big heart, and all the heart energy that's around that, and the people supporting that, and sending, not just donations, but sending food, and sending fuel, and sending their love and their support for this group of people. It's very energetically, it's very heart opening. And I
Mm.
feel that energy on the planet is something that's been missing, because there's been for the past couple of years here, we've only seen, violence and a lot of people are
Divisiveness and
divisiveness, and a lot of
mhm.
people, if there's sort of protests, there's been peaceful protest, but then there's a lot of this, we've seen the riots, and we saw the burnings of different cities and different things like this, which
Mhm.
always ends in a not so good way. But this, to me, this feels, you tune into any of the live streams, and they're just dancing in the
They're
streets,
dancing. I know, it's
yeah, and
amazing.
honking their horns, and supporting. And
Yeah,
it just feels, the energy and the vibe feels very different than any of the more recent protests that we've had,
right.
um, that end up many times with violence and destruction of property and this kind of thing. So
Right. Yeah. Well, there's something that you mentioned a while ago that I'd love to go back to, because you talked about genetic engineering
mhm.
and the hybridization program. And I know
Yep.
these in your world are like, taken for granted, as like everybody knows it. Um,
Hmm.
I know it because of Interview with Ed and some other things that I've
Oh, okay.
read and things like that. But I don't think that that everybody will know what you're talking about. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, and like the hybrid children and things
Sure.
like that, whatever you feel to share in that area, I think would be
it,
helpful.
it it's a big story, and it's a tough pill to swallow. But in my research, I actually started in researching the ET phenomenon, and then ended up uh, meeting and talking to many people who had, this was like in 2010, 11ish. If you do any deep dive into the UFO phenomenon, and you soon learn that the abduction, temporary detainment, right? Instead of abduction, this Bashar likes to use the word temporary detainment, which I prefer to use as well, because it better describes the phenomenon.
Mm.
Because they're not, if they wanted to, they could just take people and throw them out in space, right? Why would they go through the trouble of putting them back in their homes safely, and many times in better condition than when they left, as far
Yeah.
as physical ailments and different things being, diseases and illnesses being healed. So
Yeah,
um,
there are some incredible stories of healings like
there are,
that have
yeah,
happened
there's
through
in
these. Yeah.
many. So the Zetas get a bad rap, the Greys get a bad rap, because of especially in the 70s and 80s, we had a lot of people getting taken, and having memories, waking up on a table in a cold ship, and having their males having their semen taken, and females having their eggs taken. And it was not a pleasant memory for most people. And so therefore, automatically, the Greys got labeled as the bad guys. Mm. They're taking people against their will, which they, in a sense, were. But as I was studying this phenomenon, and actually the inspiration for this show, I was diving deeper and talking to I was going to therapy groups. Yvonne Smith at therapy groups for people, for abductees, and I just found it fascinating. I would talk to different people, and they would tell me to share their stories and the details, and it really just solidified this greater idea that we're being visited, but on a much more intimate level than most people would even think. Yeah. And but I couldn't. Many of them were sort of in this victim mode where they were like, those effing ETs, they took me against my will, and they were traumatized, and rightfully so. But what didn't make sense for me logically was people were being put back, diseases were being healed. I was like, how bad is this really? Mm-hmm. And then I remember having a conversation with Wendy Kennedy. She was at I used to do these UFO ET meetup groups at my office in the Marina Del Rey. And I said, I was talking to her, and she said she was contactee, that she had been taken, and different things have happened to her when she was younger. And then she said, yeah, but it's a soul contract. And I was like, oh, that was when the light bulb went off, and I'm like, soul contract. Ooh, that makes sense. That like fit, all the pieces now fit together. Tell me more about that. And then she started describing, well, I channel these beings called the Palladians, and that's what they described. And they say this stuff, and I've had some really dark stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a soul contract. I'm like, yes, that's it. And so I started diving deeper, and that was the inspiration for the show, is to try to understand the phenomenon, talking to the higher dimensional beings from their perspective, to try to figure out what's going on. And ultimately so we have this is the lore, this is the story, and this has come out from many, many people. Different slight iterations and details are going to vary depending on the person describing it, but the collective stories that I've been able to put together is so there's a group of the Zetas that were sort of clone themselves to death, in the sense that when you make a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, it degrades. Mm-hmm. And they stopped being able to reproduce in a natural way through different environmental toxins and genetic manipulation in different ways. Eventually things shut down, and they could not copy themselves anymore. So they were facing an
extinction,
extinction event, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they were, in a sense, us. And their genetic makeup in the beginning was very much of a human nature, or at least we contained a very similar genetic signature. So this is now mixing in some of this information that the Zetas or that the mantis came in and said, and basically saying that this is when the distress call went out, and they said, hey, we're dying, we need help, what do we do? And this is when the plan for, okay, you can go into this reality and the humans in this time period, and it'll help them with their evolution to becoming, for disclosure and becoming part of, this galactic
community kind of
community. And this will help jumpstart it. It's going to be a little bit scary for those humans in the beginning, but we think we can make this work. And that's when so in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the Benny and Barney Hill in the 60s, that story is a quite popular one. It's an abduction story between one of the first interracial marriages.
Oh, really?
And I found out later that they were, the ETs were the Zetas were quite curious about that, and how that could happen in that day and time. They were actually persecuted and they had to move out into the country because of their, this is, it was we've evolved a lot in the past few
Right.
decades
Yeah.
through our persecution of color and race and male and female, you know, everything.
Yeah.
We're still going through it, but
Right.
it's crazy when you think just 10 years ago some of the stuff that was allowed and
Mm-hmm.
accepted. Um, so then throughout that time period, really it started slowing down in the early 90s. Is we had estimated, you know, hundreds of millions of people taken aboard ships and their genetic makeup taken for these to create these other races, to create hybridized races between the Zetas and the humans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now my belief that they came back at that time because I think much of the genetic um, uh, DNA on our planet has been contaminated through
GMO and
GMOs, foods,
chemtrails.
and
Oh
the
yeah.
other thing that's been going on lately.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously those programs have pretty much come to a stop now. There's they got all the genetic material back in those days, and that was sort of my evaluation back in 2010. I'm like, why did they stop? And then I was saying, oh well, we've had this, since the mid 90s is when we had the introduction of GMOs
Mm-hmm.
into our food supply, and and the toxic chemicals and things that was happening before, but in the mass scale that it's happening, it didn't really
Mm-hmm.
start until the early to mid 90s, the spraying in the sky and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it kind of all made sense. It kind of all added up, and over the years, people, mostly mothers, have been energetically connecting to their children. And there's this whole phenomenon of the hybrid children, and it's there's been on the ground, or on the more the physical level, the before I got into the esoteric stuff, I would go to meetings, at these UFO meetings, and the abductees would talk about being taken aboard the ships. This was in 2009-10, and they had to show their children how to do mundane tasks like grocery shopping, folding clothes, these kinds of
Really.
like home economics, right? Classes of how to do stuff, because they were preparing the children to come to Earth, was the plan at the time. And that was a particular timeline. I don't know where we're at with all that. I'm sure there's still parts of that story that'll probably be weaved in, but it's my take now that still that these children, who may or may not be children now, who, again, the time differential, like we were just saying, that in these higher vibrational frequencies, 10 years go by in our time, and it may be 2 months. So maybe they still are kids, maybe they're growing. I've heard from the latest updates, I've heard from some people, is that they're more like teenage kids that they're interacting with, and they are now preparing to make contact, and our first contact groups will be actually the hybrids, and that even though we've had this history of contact from the Palladians and other groups, Zetas and whatnot, the hybrids are, because of the genetic signature, they are us in a sense, that will have an easier time acclimating to them, and they'll have an easier time acclimating to us, for making full contact in an open sense.
Yeah, so the hypothesis for that timeline would be that they actually arrive in the physical realm, and everybody can see them, not just
Correct.
like somebody who has that capability.
Right.
Because people, different levels, people who have different spiritual psychic gifts, can see interdimensionally in ways that other people can't.
Right.
You know, if for me, that clicking that came through, you know, that I mentioned early on, it's like, okay, that was like just a natural way for me to be able to experience that, if I'm accurately understanding what that even was.
Right.
But for another person, you know, they may have an easier time just seeing something, you know, that other people can't see. But
Clicks.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
this would be like everybody could
Yeah.
see, even normal
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. No, right. 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 Yeah. I think that's where we're headed now. How long is it? How long is it going to take us? You know, that's up to the collective. That's up to the more of this trucker heart energy that we can get flooding the planet, or we will get there.
Hmm.
It's is my belief. Not that, you know, we have to all support that or not. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an analogy because it's a
Hmm.
very heart-centered action for the people to support that. The again, sovereignty, not giving your power away. You know, these are lessons that are in my show, and these are lessons from RTs and these extra dimensional beings that are trying to teach us these things.
Hmm.
And these are lessons that we're going through when we're, you know, we give away our power, and, you know, we get not so nice things happen, you know, when we stand in our power, in a peaceful and strong way, then, you know, the development, we're building we're laying the foundation for the new earth.
Hmm.
And at least my understanding of what the new earth is going to look like, in order for us to travel interdimensionally, in order for us to become a part of this galactic community, is we ourselves have to stand in our own power. Because when you're you know, giving your power away, it's easy for another race or another civilization to sort of fly in, float in, and say, hey, we have all the good toys and cool things, and if you want to have access to this, then you have to obey us and do what we say. And we've sort of been doing that for generations, right? We've been,
Hmm.
whether it's evil reptilians, or whether it's king and queens, or, you know, higher class, this class system that we've created on the planet. It's the same story. You
Hmm.
can put whatever label you want on it, but we've seen that it hasn't really got us, and especially it hasn't got us into the galactic communities. We're not really hanging
Yeah.
out there. But even on our own, you know, local levels, it never really ends well. So
Yeah.
to become part of the galactic, you know, federation or confederation, or the, you know, the association of worlds, or whatever label you want to put on it, we have to stand sovereign and empowered, individually and collectively. So, and I think that's what we're sort of sorting out right now with all this stuff. I know I went
Yeah.
off on a tangent there from the hybrids, but
No, but
it's a
it's
big
really
theme.
relevant.
It's really,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's fascinating just how many things that you've hit that I already had to, you know, on the docket to ask you. You're just like flying through it just
Okay.
without even knowing what I was going to ask you. So I won't ask you that or that or
Okay.
that.
Oh, well, I can go on we can
Just
go
you're
anywhere.
feeling it. You're in the
Yeah.
flow. So perfect.
Well, the thing for me is the ET story was my gateway drug. I tell people all the time, right? The UFO, investigating that, and then to really try to figure out, okay, well, why is there a secret? Why is this being held from society? Why is the military having these conversations behind the scenes and they're not allowed to share it? Or what are the energies and the manipulations and the factors going there? And then you find out, okay, we've got this financial system that's you know, sort of the oil and the gears of how we do things. And then you find out how corrupt and unserving to the actual people that this system is. And then you realize, okay, well, that's got to shift. How does that shift? You know, it becomes very big really fast, right?
Hmm.
And you're like, wow, the entire all of humanity is enslaved and they don't even know it. and
Yes.
it's and it's not and I'm not saying that because a lot of people are like, well, you shouldn't say that stuff because you're, that's conspiracy theory and you're like disempowering. And they're like, no, no, no. When we're partaking in a debt-based enslavement Ponzi scheme system, known as the fiat US dollar system, then we're being enslaved. Like you're literally, I mean, you don't energetically have to, do that, but a lot of people unintentionally, unknowingly, just by using that money, and we think, well, I'm not a slave. You are a slave.
Yeah.
You're a slave to a system that is not serving the people. So this is the UFO talk, and then I'm like, well, why isn't disclosure? Why can't they just land right now? Oh, well, they can't because you guys are enslaved, and there's this whole other cabal thing, and there's all these other things, and then it's like, and a lot of people in the spiritual community are like, well, don't go there. That's negative, and you're just going to invite negativity into you. And I'm like, well, no, I want to find out what's the reasoning why these things can't happen why can't we have our hybrids just show up in our backyard and hang out with us, right? Not that they can't, and they are hanging out with some people and they are showing up, but I'm always about reverse engineering, going back, like, what's the problem? Why is this not happening? And what can I do to fix it? And right now, the big problem that is being unwound is, again, going back to personal sovereignty and the greater issue of the meltdown of the financial systems of the world, right? This debt-based enslavement system, which is not sustainable, is in the last legs. Like, we're raising our frequency, and this is a system that is pulling down. So we either have to break free from this system and create new ones, which we are doing with cryptocurrencies and decentralized blockchain, and the innovation is insane where we're headed with all this stuff, and then just let this other system sort of fall to the wayside. But until on a bigger scale we're able to do this, we're not going to have the hybrids or other ET races sort of show up and have kumbaya moments out in the desert or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to those, and I'm
Right.
doing my best to have those moments without having to wait for that system to collapse. So getting a jump start on it, but at the same time, we have to identify some of the blockages that are keeping those things from happening, and then do the work, and then, yes, unwind, pull on the string and find out what's, and is that just the system itself, or is it the energetics around the system? And it's both. It's this energy is feeding the system, which is not serving the people. So if you take your energy out, that's the first step. You still have to use your dollars to go to the store and buy stuff. That's fine. But I'm going to take my energy out as much as possible and put that into a more sustainable reality system that will be more beneficial for me as an individual standing in my sovereignty, as well as the collective groups. So this is where I see the natural evolution of humanity, and it's happening. It's great. Tom Malone, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine that was on Joe Rogan, the controversial Robert Malone, right? Sorry, yeah. Robert Malone. So he's already put out videos. He's like, look, this is what's coming is people are going to have to disconnect from the system, create small communities, and become as sustainable as possible. And because he's already foreseen what we have to do to break free from the stuff that's happening.
Right.
So why wait for that to happen? Why not jumpstart? Reach out to your neighbors, start making those connections. You don't have to go into ET hybrids and all that stuff. That may be a little deep for them to understand, to go, you say, wait, we have to do this so the hybrids will land. Right. You don't have to go that far that fast, but have a dialogue about, hey, I'm growing these vegetables in my backyard. Why don't you grow these vegetables, or what would you like to grow? And maybe we could do some exchange. And why don't we go support our local farmers market? get and talk to the farmers and figure out what, where are they getting their food and how are they doing it, and what growing practices are they using? Is that sustainable? Are they using chemicals? Are they going to hurt the environment, or are they helping it? How can I support those that are doing sustainable, clean, healthy practices? Whether it's local farmers or doing your community. How do I get clean energy? How do I right now, what do we have access? Yes, there's all these amazing technologies on the horizon as far as free energy and med beds. People talking about meds all the time. That's there, but it's not going to come until we energetically make that shift that's going to get us there. And a lot of people are already over there with their heads, but they're not there with their actions.
Right. And this is where you talk about that, the spiritual community with their, you only focus on light, and that's all you have to do. And this is, somebody that you had on your program that you actually pointed me to, Z Earth Star. I have seen some of her things. One of the things I love that she talks about is smashing through the New Age glass ceiling, because it's a limiting belief. And her take on it is that it's an intentional infiltration in the spiritual community to limit our capabilities as creators so that we don't act. And you hear this all the time of people going, well, just be in the light and don't focus on the dark. And they could argue that exactly what you said, where it's like, don't talk about conspiracy, don't talk about the bad stuff. Let's not look at that, because then we're giving our attention to it. It'll amplify it. There's all this kind of stuff, but it's actually, it prevents us from taking action. So it actually is feeding, it's benefiting what we don't want, because it's making people afraid to do anything, to take action, to think that all they have to do is not think about that and somebody will save us or whatever. So it is very disempowering. And so I'm grateful that you.
I'll jump in. It depends on the person, because there are different levels of people that there's some people, I know some very powerful manifestors that energetically are kind of already at this vibration where they can simply tune out those other frequencies and tune into these higher frequencies or these visions, and be at that level where they don't have to necessarily take those actions and be in a reality that is quite fluid and easy and navigating, and there's not much. So that does work for certain type of people.
But does it help the collective?
That's what I'm saying. So it does help the collective, because still energy is energy, no matter what level it is, whether it's in a physical form or in a like in a prayer form or whatever. My belief, and from my teachings and talking to all these ETs and whatnot, is the most effective frequency vibration that we have in this realm that would affect this realm is physical action. So yes, having the intention, the emotion, the thought, these are all supportive of ultimately taking action. Physical action has the strongest ripples in this reality. So if you want to really make change, then you have to take physical action or you don't have to, but it's the strongest vibrational frequency ripples that we're going to get from doing anything. So you can still have the ripples through thought, through prayer, through meditation, through emotions, feeling, without taking action. You can still feel in things, right? And people feel negativity, they feel positivity, and there's a lot of feeling going on. Very important to feel, but to actually make the ripples in this reality in a more concise, straight, direct way would be taking physical action. Now, it could be subtle. If I want to be in my sovereignty and own my my space and not have anybody else sort of take away from that, I can do something as simple as planting a tomato in my windowsill. I don't need to have full autonomous, gardening and everything else but just the act of planting the tomato in the idea of like, this is going to support my sovereignty. So I'm not dependent on the supermarket to get my tomatoes. It's that those small gestures, taking the physical action, is really in a sense all we really need for now, right? To get this, to get things going, because that in itself is the intention behind it, and you're taking a physical action, and there's another life coming into this reality, an energetic vibrational signature of the tomato and the plant, and it's growing, and you're putting your intention into it as you're supporting its life, giving it food under the sun, and this is for my sovereignty, right? So it's there's a lot of energy in that plant that then we can then take that and magnify that. And again, this is going into our communities and everything else, sort of going back into the story I was just saying. But yeah, so Z's correct. I absolutely agree. That's why she's on my show. But I also wouldn't condemn or demonize everybody
absolutely not.
who's sort of, from different perspectives. They got their head in their clouds, but that's okay, because we need that too. It's a combination of all of it.
Right. And I suppose in a perfect, for a lot of people, the balance would be in both. So it's being in tune energetically, having that thoughtful intention as the backing of the action. But I know that I have subscribed in the past to different teachings that are basically like, just don't even look at that. Don't, and it's kind of like I can see how that is disempowering and how it may not be the most helpful way to find our way out of it, because we do need to also take our, invest in our own power and not feel like, who's going to do it? Because there's so much working in the other direction where there is action. So it's kind of like ultimately something on this material plane has to manifest. And we, if we're not going to do it, we're relying on that external, spaceship or something, to come in. And so is that the most appropriate action for humanity, to expect that another species, for example, or some other, that it doesn't, isn't part of this plane organically to take that initiative, that may be a self-serving belief for the, the direction that we're not wanting to go in. I don't want to go in.
Exactly. I exactly. So the mechanism, I think, is, and this can, because there's going to be different camps, right? Of people, do I not focus there, to focus there. Ultimately, it is what I've come down to is, it's not about focusing there or not focusing there. It's about what is your reaction to that information. Right. So it could be, if you want to believe in the dark cabal, trying to take over the world, conspiracy theory, is that going to, is that idea and that belief, is that story, is that going to help move you into a positive action story where you're now taking, I believe in that story because now I'm actually taking physical action and positivity and making positive changes in my life, or by believing in that story, do I just throw in the towel and the whole thing's we're
disempowering
doomed.
anyway.
Disempowering. So it's the same story, but it's how you react to it.
Yeah.
And some people don't have the discipline or the understanding to take positive action on a negative story. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, I think some of the gurus and some of our teachers in the past said, just don't go into the negativity,
Yeah.
because some people aren't trained enough to make that positive shift.
Yeah.
So,
So true.
so so it is really comes down to the individual and how they're going to take positive action from whatever story is out there in the ethers, right?
Yeah.
And I support any story that's going to positively affect people to take positive action. If
Right.
it's creating negativity and negative actions, then maybe we should probably put that one aside for now and let
Yeah.
come up with a new story, a new sort of perspective, and that's going to move us into positivity.
Right. Right. Well, how are you doing on time?
Oh, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was hoping to just get, before we wrap up here, what is in the works for you right now? Because I know you're doing some stuff, or you have done some stuff with the Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull.
Yep.
I don't know if you're still currently working on Interview with Ed. What's
I
going
am.
on?
So a couple new episodes, 4 new episodes just came out this past week, I guess, with Interview with Ed, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see those or not.
I haven't yet. No.
So it's a fun round of episodes revolving around Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnotherapy techniques, right?
Okay.
Her specialized techniques that she, there's practitioners all over the world, and
Mm-hmm.
I found out about Beverly and Suzanne, and Suzanne Spooner, who's one of the main practitioner teachers of this technique that worked close to Dolores, has her own YouTube channel, and she was putting up different regression sessions. And this was not this past summer, the summer before. So about a year and a half ago, I was sent one of these sessions, and from a fan of the show, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Hey, Ruben, you should check this out." So that's a lot of how I end up going for these interviews, is just
I'm
through
sure.
synchronicities, or people send me stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, that sounds cool."
Yeah.
So I listened to it, and it blew my mind, because it was so in line with this everything that's going on, but it had this unique language. Beverly, who was being regressed, had this unique way of describing what we're going through here on Earth, and I was like, oh, cool, I want to talk to them. So while we're filming this documentary with Bill, and we've been doing this for about 2 years now, and Bill and the Skull going all around. We were driving through Des Moines, Iowa, and I said, "Hey, Bill, can we make a stop here for the weekend?" It was an Easter weekend, not this past Easter, the Easter before, or was it this past Easter? Where are we at now? I don't even know. Which
This
timeline am
is,
I
yeah.
on? Maybe it was this past Easter. It was, yeah. So Easter's coming up, I guess.
Yeah.
So this past Easter, we were driving through, we had the Skull, and I was like, hey, can we make a pit stop here? We got to do this thing. And it's great because we ended up regressing Bill, and
Really?
he so that's a big part of the documentary
Oh, wow.
is Suzanne putting him under. But first we Beverly came from Nebraska and showed up, and we regressed her, and did this whole thing, and got to talk to the designers. That's the designers of our reality simulation, is the beings that she channeled
No kidding.
in this regression way. She can't really just channel them. I think now maybe she can. She's done enough of these regressions, but it came through in this regression session, and we got to have a dialogue. And
That's a
and in
great
the
band name, The Regression Session. We should start a band.
yes, have Bill as the main lead singer. So so it's a fun 4 episodes, because it's a little bit different than my usual format,
Hmm.
but yet very familiar. And we're talking to extra dimensional beings and all this fun stuff. And And then there's this library of other sessions that Suzanne and Beverly have prior. So they did 3 sessions prior to my 4th session with them doing the interview. So you can go back and listen to all of the material, and the links are all in my show posts and stuff. So you can go back and listen to those, which is fascinating. So if you just tune into my show for these last 4 episodes, plus all the other stuff, you'll be busy for the next probably week just tuning into all that stuff. And so that the next episode I've got coming up is with a channeler named Asil, and he channels different angelic beings. And another unique channeler in the sense that he travels around the world, sort of doing similar work to like Bill with the skull, where Bill takes the skull to different places and ley lines and energetic grid lines and sort of charges it up. Asil does the same thing, but just Asil. He himself goes and he'll take groups, and then they'll go and do meditations and channel in light beings and angelic beings to sort of grid the planets or charge up the planet's ley lines. So there's a lot of that in season 3. It's fascinating because there's a lot of people that are being divinely guided to bring in this energy for our Earth right now, because the way it's talked in the interview with Beverly and the designers is that there's another Earth that's already been created, in a sense, in a holographic form. And what we're trying to do is overlay that Earth into our current Earth. And what has to happen is you can't just slap it on there. Like, you have to lay the foundation, in a sense, energetically through the current ley lines and grids, so it can fit in and snap, and so we can snap into that reality in a less aggressive way, or it wouldn't even fit, right? So my understanding is there's a lot of light workers, people who are getting these communications through these other beings, and actually other beings on the other side of the veil, so they're doing a lot of work too. And we're all working in conjunction so we can lay down the foundation, so this new Earth can stick in, and then we can, in a sense, jump timelines, which we're jumping timelines every day in every way. But in a larger societal, like collective way, we can shift to this new Earth, and then from there expand, go for the next 26,000 year cycle or whatever, and that we can have these higher energies, grid in these higher energies.
And they talk about it that it would use the existing grid system, or because I've also heard that potentially there would need to be new ley lines because of the compromised positioning of the power nodes.
Sure. Yeah, I would assume that's what we're doing. In the interview with the designers, I ask about the pyramids, and they're still very, very much working and adding to the ley line energy grids that have already been laid out. So it's just a matter of, I think, adding more. And yeah, I would assume that this new Earth is going to have different gridding points as well. We've heard different through the lore and the stories. We've heard that the heart chakra of the planet is moved from Tibet to like the Machu Picchu area in South America. Like, that's the new heart chakra. Like, these chakras and the energy centers are moving, in a sense, realigning in different ways. So I would say probably any already existing energy point on the planet will then be either magnified, or the energy might shift in different ways. But I would say you're probably, if you found a ley line, an existing one, I'm sure it'll be in play in the new Earth, plus more, right? And there'll probably be much more.
Right. Well, there's so many, like, so many of the power nodes have been taken by, like, massive churches, or they're
Right,
underwater
right,
or whatever, you know.
right. And I would say taken, but just distorted, perhaps. The
Yeah.
energy's still there. The it's still an acupuncture point
Hmm.
of the planet.
But
It's
it might not be
just,
accessible or
yeah, or it might need some tuning.
yeah. But
So
like government bases, I don't know. I've
yeah,
heard that there are
yeah,
government
yeah,
bases on a lot of them too. And
sure,
so
yeah,
access to them is
yeah.
limited. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And but again, this shift into the heart, no matter what your religion is or what your belief system is, when we can move into that frequency, that unifying frequency of heart energy, then it doesn't matter if a church is on there or not, because you're still going to have, now you'll have collective people subscribing to a different version of the belief system from before that may be disempowering. Maybe it's now a new empowering energy. So
Yeah.
I have faith,
Yeah.
kind of that strange word to use, but in this sense, but I have faith that the religions of the world will adjust in vibration and frequency, so they're no longer disempowering and they're more of an empowering. There'll be slight adjustments, because overall, I mean, most religions of the world have that basic fundamental helping others, and
Right.
good
Yeah.
good good intentions, right? So it's
Yeah.
just
And good like
the
people in the congregation,
yeah, yeah,
and
totally.
yeah, I like that timeline. Let's
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that.
I mean, I'm seeing it in my local community here
Yeah.
in Big Bear, very much connected to the churches here in the mostly it's a Christian based community,
Mhm.
and I'm just seeing the amount of heart,
Yeah.
uh, outpour of heart energy and support as a community, you know. And I may be the strange guy that talks about aliens, but but I'm seeing they're not as standoffish about that idea
Mhm.
anymore. They're like, oh yeah, Ruben's into aliens, okay. uh he's okay though, he's a good guy. And then
You're an
likewise I'm like, yeah,
ambassador.
yeah, and then so, and for them too, and
Yeah.
and I don't push it, and they're good. They don't push some of their things either. And I just seen this massaging, or this relaxing into certain ideas and things that in the not so distant past would be demonic. Don't go there,
Yeah.
that's evil.
Right.
you know
Right.
and now it's like, oh, okay, it's all right. Well, we can yeah, apparently, the government, the Pentagon has said that UFOs are real, and
Right.
maybe they're not all out to get us and bomb us and destroy us, or all that stuff. So
Right.
it's shifting slightly, and you just have
Yeah.
to kind of let it organically um take place. And the
Mhm.
more we just stay in our heart and are open and compassionate with our communities and our then those barriers get broken down pretty quick.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. And what about your documentary with the crystal skull and Bill Hellman?
We're about to, Steve and I are going to be on the road again tomorrow. Actually, we're heading to Sedona to meet up with Bill
Oh,
for an event
awesome.
out there. We still it's still got a long ways to go with the editing.
Yeah.
It's quite the monster
I'm sure
to
you have a ton of footage.
2 years of hanging out with Bill.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. And it's such a massive story too. We're talking not just about the crystal skull, but Bill and his life. And this guy is so
Mm.
interesting, and he's been traveled the world, and done so
Yeah.
many interesting things and met so many different people. And so we're trying to tell both stories
Yeah.
and the other different interesting people that come in to interact with Bill and the Skull. It's a whole
Mm.
other, how are all these people, indigenous elders and leaders and different people that come into that story. It's a lot. There's a lot of through lines that we're trying
Yeah.
to make sure we cover and as well as the ET connection, the Atlantis and the ancient history connection. I see the skull as one of these key nodal points in connecting the past and the future. And it is sort of this, it's a physicalized object in our reality, which is very rare to have. We have a lot of energy. We just talked about ley lines, and people who aren't energy sensitive may not even what is that, right? They can't even imagine or fathom that kind of talk. But now you have this physicalized crystal skull that we still don't understand how it was made, or what technology could have gone into making this thing, which then opens the door for a lot of people who aren't feeling the energy or seeing the things, or doing the thing, or aren't having the ET connections or that kind of thing. They have a physicalized object that they can start to meditate on, think about. It starts unlocking those doors. Curiosity. Well, how was it made? Was this? You go deeper, and you can go down a million rabbit holes. Maybe the ETs brought it here? Maybe that maybe it was manifested through. Maybe it's older than ETs. Who knows? There's all these mysteries around it that we're exploring in the movie. But just having that physicalized object is a big key to exploring and opening the mysteries of the universe.
Right. Yeah, it is fascinating. And the couple of times that I've been, so honored to be able to interact with it, later it has shown up in visions and, in meditation or whatever, where it's like, oh, that's the skull, it's like,
right.
Like, where'd that come from? I hadn't even thought about that in days or whatever, it's like, just clear as day, like there's the skull, So it is like super interesting that, like you say, it's this physical thing that we can interact with here, but it's clearly multi-dimensional. And we all are multi-dimensional too, but
sure.
It's really fascinating. I cannot wait to see how this all comes together in your film, and get to experience that. That'll be really beautiful for everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to delivering that to the world.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It is so much fun to hang out with you. I love it.
I have many tangents that can go on. I apologize.
I love it. Seriously, it is hysterical, the tangents that you've taken. You've just really gone through so many things that so many like specific little questions that I had that you just ticked off as you went.
Oh, sweet.
So it's all perfect.
Awesome. Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. You're always welcome whenever you'd like to come back. Open door for you.
I'm
Wonderful.
sure I'll have lots more to talk about in just a couple more months. Hanging out with Bill.
Yeah. Awesome. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay. I stopped the audio.